You know, I want to point out to you what you, particularly you young people, did by raising the money that you did, and it was not insignificant, and all the money raised that you did for this event went straight to our orphanage in Haiti. I've been there for 5 years. I go every month. I took over this orphanage right after the earthquake, and we admit children. Most of these children are from dirt poor families. They don't have parents. They live in tents made of corrugated tin and a tarp. They come to us, maybe an aunt, a grandmother, an uncle, somebody holding the babies, and ask me to admit the kids. But one night, we had someone show up that really was an unusual case. A woman walked in with a child. She came in, she sat down. We always ask standard questions. The child was asleep in her lap, maybe 2 years old. And we started with the questions of, what's your name? She tells us her name. What's the child's name? Tells us the child's name. Where's the father? There is no father, she said. I talked to the guy who does the translating for me. I said, no, ask her again. Maybe she misunderstood. Who is the father? There is no father. There is no mother, she said. I said, okay, there's no father and there's no mother. Who are you? She said, I found him. I said, what do you mean you found him? She said, I went to a hospital to visit a friend, and when I came out of the hospital, I was walking along the path, and from the trees, I heard a baby crying. And I walked into the woods, and I found this 2-month-old infant lying underneath the tree, abandoned, belly all swollen, crying, and near starvation. So I picked him up, and I took him to the police station. I said, what did the police tell you? She said, the police said, why did you pick him up? You should have left him there to die. These are the kind of children that we take in. That's the kind of help that you provided with your gift. And I want to thank you and say a deep, deep appreciation and gratitude for what you've done for that particular child. And in point of fact, what you have done is be fatherly. You may not be that child's father, but you have acted in a way that will help steer that child as he grows older. And that's a story I want to share with you today. It doesn't involve my biological father, but it involves a guy who sort of served that purpose for me much of my life. His name was Maury Schwartz. He is the Maury of the book Tuesdays with Maury, if any of you are familiar with that. He was a college professor of mine. He said, I hope one day you'll think of me as your friend. So I knew cutting the class was out of the question at that point. But that began this really amazing relationship that Maury and I had. I ended up taking every class he offered. I ended up majoring in sociology not because I was all that interested in it, to be honest, but I had all those credits. It would have been a shame to waste them. I really majored in Maury, but they weren't giving out degrees in that at the time. On the last day of school, graduation, I got him a gift, a briefcase. I didn't have any money, so it had to be the world's cheapest briefcase. But I gave it to him, and you would have thought I was giving him a brick of gold. He turned it every which way, began to cry a little bit, which wasn't unusual for him, gave me a big hug, and he said, Mitch, you're one of the good ones. Promise me you'll stay in touch. I said, okay, I will. Promise. Okay, I promise. Say it in a sentence. Okay, Maury, I promise I'll stay in touch. I promise I'll stay in touch. And then I graduated. I went off into the world to do all those nice things that you heard about in the introduction. And I proceeded to break that promise every day, every week, every month, and every year for 16 years. And one day you wake up and you say, this was meant to be. I was hatched out of the egg with all this success coming my way. We forget the people who make us the kind of people who can have that kind of success. We forget our teachers. We forget our mentors. We forget our parents. And in the case of Maury, I forgot mine for 16 years. And he decided he would teach about what it was like to die right up until the day he died. After all, he said, everybody's going to die. There must be something that I'll go through that I can pass on to somebody else. I said to myself, you know, you're 37 years old and you're perfectly healthy. And he's 78 years old and dying. And yet he seems 10 times happier with his life than you are with yours. What's the matter with this picture? And I began to go back. I went the next Tuesday, and the next Tuesday, and the next Tuesday, and what turned out to be all the Tuesdays that Maury had left in his life, to try to get the answer to that very important question: what do we know when we're really looking death in the face that puts everything else into perspective? And wouldn't it be great to have that lesson now when we're young enough and healthy enough to do something about it? So as you go forward, as you leave this event tonight, as you young men go off to college or try to decide, what am I going to do with my life? You're going to have a lot of influences and a lot of people telling you the way to success is this field, the way to success is this amount of money, the way to success is this neighborhood, this house, this wife, this or this or this. Just remember, you already have the way to success. Your Father's put it inside you. It's called your heart. Follow it, and it will never lead you astray. Thank you very much for listening to me tonight. It's an honor to speak to you.